And I'd like to welcome you to the January 25th, 2024 CBA meeting. The CBA has provided the opportunity for the public to participate via the WebEx platform. When we take public comments, we will begin by taking public comment from those individuals attending the meeting physically at the Sacramento location. I will then ask the moderator to open up the lines for public comment. You will be allotted up to 5 minutes for public comment. I'd like to note that CBA member Hines and CBA member Jacobson will be participating via WebEx. There will be no members of the public at their location. I'd now like to turn the meeting over to Ms. Reed to establish a quorum.
Patricia Batchelor. Here. Nancy Corrigan.
Nancy Corrigan here.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines.
Here.
Dan Jacobson.
Here.
Christian Lotta.
Present.
Tony Lynn.
Here.
Joe Rosenbaum.
Here.
Katrina Salazar.
Present.
Teresa Thompson.
Present.
And Evangeline Ward.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now that the quorum is established, let me read this into the record. The CBA's mission is to protect consumers by ensuring only qualified licensees practice public accountancy in accordance with established professional standards. This mission is derived from the statutory requirement that the protection of the public shall be the highest priority of the California Board of Accountancy in exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. Okay, let's move then directly into item number 1. Do we have any public comment for items that are not on the noticed agenda? Anyone here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, could you open it up for any public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to mention a comment or have a comment for an item not on the agenda, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box there and click send, or our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments on items not on the agenda? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next item on the agenda, item number 2, is the report of the president. I will begin with item number A, which is a resolution for retired California Board of Accountancy member Ariel Pei. Whereas Ariel Pei was appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly and has faithfully served as a member of the California Board of Accountancy from October 10, 2019 through January 5, 2024, and whereas he served as a chair, vice chair, and member of the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee, member of the Committee on Professional Conduct, member of the Legislative Committee, and California Board of Accountancy member liaison to the Enforcement Committee and Peer Review Oversight Committee, and whereas he is the mayor of Lakewood, California, and previously served as vice mayor, and whereas Ariel Pei is the owner of a marketing and print shop in Lakewood, California, and previously worked in global marketing at Vans Shoe Company. And whereas he has served his community in several roles, including as business advisor with the Los Angeles Regional Small Business Development Center Network, board chair of the Lakewood YMCA, an advisory council member for the Bellflower United School District Career Technical Education Program. Mr. Pei also is a member of the Long Beach City College Foundation Board, California Contract Cities Association, the Gateway Cities COG Board, and League of California Cities. And whereas throughout his term of service and at all times, Ariel Pei gave fully of himself and his ideas and acted forthrightly and conscientiously, always with the public interest and welfare in mind. And whereas his colleagues wish to express to him their high esteem and regard, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the California Board of Accountancy express heartfelt heartfelt appreciation to Ariel Pay for the outstanding contribution he made during his term of service on the California Board of Accountancy and to the consumers of California. Can I get a motion to accept this resolution? Yes, Ms. Corrigan.
Yes, I move to accept the resolution for Mr. Pay's retirement.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Are there any questions or comments from our members? I'll now open it up to the public. Are there any questions or comments from those attending in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, could you open up the WebEx for any public comment?
Certainly. We've opened up the WebEx Q&A to facilitate public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand, or you may click on the question mark icon, type the word comment, and click send. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Ms. Reed, can you call for the vote?
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Christian Lotta, Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar, Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Evangeline Ward,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2B, the report of the Leadership Roundtable meeting. Yesterday, we conducted the Leadership Roundtable meeting here in Sacramento. This meeting provided our leadership an opportunity to meet with Executive Director Dominic Franzella and his executive team. It was attended by myself and Ms. Lotta. During the meeting, we reviewed the planned meeting topics for 2024. We spent a significant amount of time discussing priority projects for 2024. A few of those projects include preparing for the CBA's Sunset Review hearing, which is anticipated to occur in early March, continuing to monitor the CPA pipeline and engage nationally with NASBA and other stakeholders, and work on the activities surrounding the CBA Sure CPA project. We also think our focus on communications and outreach needs to continue. This leadership team supports the great work in expanding our reach and messages. We will hear more about these activities later today during the review of the 2024 Communications and Outreach Plan. Staff reported that we will start work on an updated strategic plan towards the end of the year, and an overview of the activities involved will be presented at the March CBA meeting. We also touched on the importance of continuing the business modernization project to further automate and automation externally for our stakeholders. We had a very robust discussion, and I would like to thank my fellow leaders for their support. 2024 will be a great year. I don't believe we need to have a motion to accept that, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 2C, update on the California Board of Accountancy's Sunset Review project. Ms. Pierce, would you handle that?
Of course, thank you so much. CBA staff hand-delivered the Sunset Review report to the legislature on January 4th, and we have this amazing-looking report in front of us here. If any members want a copy, there's some on the back table. There's also, the report is also posted on our website if you want an electronic version. Executive Officer Franzella and I met with consultants from both the Assembly Committee on Business and Professions and the Senate Committee on Business, Professions, and Economic Development in early January to discuss the report. The consultants asked a variety of questions and was appreciative of staff being available to meet and discuss the various topics. There was also an opportunity to share more recent developments regarding the CPA pipeline. Staff provided the consultants with a background paper regarding the topic. The sunset review process is generally the preferred time to tackle significant issues facing the profession, and it does not appear a solution on the CPA pipeline will be concluded with any timeline that would allow them to be properly vetted and put into a sunset-related legislative package. As such, the CBA wanted legislative staff to be aware that we may need to come back to the legislature in the near term to discuss solutions for addressing the CPA pipeline. Legislative staff will continue to review the report and prepare a background paper that will be used by the committee members at the Sunset Review hearing, where the CBA president and executive officer and other CBA representatives will testify. It is anticipated the Sunset Review hearing will be in early March. Leading up to the hearing, the executive officer will have an opportunity to participate in a mock hearing held by DCA staff as a way to prepare for the actual hearing with the committee members. Staff will also be contacting all the members on the Business and Professions committees to proactively see if they have any questions on the Sunset Report or any concerns regarding the CBA, and then meeting with them as necessary. We will keep members updated once the hearing date is confirmed. We will also have an agenda item at the March board meeting to provide information on the outcome of the hearing and review proposed responses to any questions or issues identified in the background report. So I'll turn it back to President, and I'm happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you very much. We are going to ask questions, both of members and the public, after the conclusion of the next two items. So hold your questions if you have them. Next item, number D, is the announcement of the new committee and liaison assignments. And I think you will, all the members will have received the your assignments and your chart. This is also available on our website for those who can't see this print that I'm holding up. Item number E, I'd like to invite Judy Buccarelli, Manager of Board and Bureau Relations of the Department of Consumer Affairs, to give a report on departmental activities.
Good morning, board members. Happy to be with you again. This morning, I'll provide the DCA update for January. First, I'll start with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion update. The DEI Steering Committee held its quarterly meeting on December 15th. The committee reviewed a draft DEI intranet webpage that is currently being developed, re-elected its chairperson and vice chairperson for 2024, and discussed DEI training as it remains a committee priority. Once operational, the DEI intranet page will provide all DCA employees with information and resources, including DEI hiring principles, which will serve as a guide for those involved in the hiring process. The DEI Steering Committee would like to continue to learn about and showcase the DEI activities of DCA's boards and bureaus. If your board has DEI efforts to share, please send them to Board and Bureau Relations. DCA continues to support the boards and bureaus in expanding culturally competent communications and promoting the importance of meeting the needs of all California consumers, licensees, and applicants. The latest issue of DCA's Consumer Connection magazine includes articles with information important to consumers, including a feature cover story translated into 3 languages to further the reach of this information. The magazine is available on the DCA homepage, and printed copies of the magazine are also available. If you would like printed copies, please email your request to consumerconnection@dca.ca.gov. Next, I'm going to provide some general information about the current year expenditure freeze, and it will be general, and I believe later in the agenda, the executive officer will share with you how what I'm going to present will directly impact the board's activities. The Department of Finance issued a budget letter that directs all agencies and departments under the direct authority of the governor to take immediate action to reduce current year expenditures. Given the fiscal outlook, the state of California anticipates a significant general fund budget deficit in fiscal years 23-24 and 24-25, which will require all state entities to take immediate measures to ensure more prudent spending. Except for time-sensitive, emergency-related, mission-critical, or information security needs, immediate actions include the cancellation of all non-essential travels, such as participation in seminars, conferences, and training, both in-state and out-of-state. Additionally, programs shall reevaluate expenses related to current IT projects. Board should review all spending and determine where savings can be realized. In addition, it is important that boards, when planning meetings, ensure they are conducting a cost analysis to determine the best option for the state. And please remember that when traveling, you need to use all forms of transportation and hotel accommodations that are the most economical to the state. DCA has provided guidance, and it is imperative that we all work together to find savings. Next, I have board member required trainings and a Form 700 Statement of Economic Interest. Information on that. California law requires all DCA board members to complete the following. Form 700 Statement of Economic Interest. This form must be filed within 30 days of assuming or leaving your appointment and annually on or before April 1st, 2024. This year's annual filing period covers the prior calendar year, January 1 through December 31st, 2023. The filing deadline for filing is Monday, April 1st, 2024. To ensure compliance, DCA requests that Form 700 filers complete the e-filing by Friday, March 15th. You should have recently received an email from NetFile with instructions on how to file your annual Form 700. If you have any questions or would like more information, please contact Melissa Gear at melissa.gear@dca.ca.gov. Next, I have a sexual harassment prevention training. This training must be completed every 2 years. The training is online, interactive, and can be completed at your convenience via the learning management system. All members must complete the 2-hour supervisory training. The training is available on LMS. If board members need assistance accessing LMS or need additional information about any of these trainings, please contact your board's liaison or DCA Board and Bureau Relations at memberrelations@dca.ca.gov. Ethics training must be completed within the first 6 months of appointment and repeated every 2 years throughout terms on the board. The training is available at the Department of Justice website or upon request from BBR. Next is board member orientation training. It must be completed within 1 year of appointment and reappointment to the board. BMOT is an all-day training, and for 2024, it is being offered on the following dates: March 27th, June 18th, and October 22nd. Due to the budget letter previously mentioned and to save costs, all BMOT training will be virtual in 2024, so please sign up for the first available date to be compliant. Members can sign up using DCA's learning management system. Defensive driver training is required at least once every 4 years, is online, and an interactive training that can be completed at your convenience. Course enrollments are now submitted via DGS Learning Management System pathways. Contact DGS University at dgs.ca.gov. Upon conclusion of required trainings, please provide copies of completion certificates to your executive officer and to DCA at memberrelations@dca.ca.gov. And I know I threw a lot of email addresses out there, and I provided Rebecca a copy of this update so she can get you that information if you didn't jot it down. If you need to know if you have completed any of your required training courses, please reach out to Board and Bureau Relations. Looking ahead, DCA invites presidents and vice presidents to our president's training on February 22nd, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. This virtual 2.5-hour training will outline the role of a board president, including understanding the scope of their role, managing board members, communicating with the executive officer, and performing administrative duties. This training not only provides valuable information from DCA staff, but will also have a panel of prior members who have held executive positions on a board. Their knowledge and expertise will not only help sort through the significant role of president and vice president, but they will also be available for a question and answer time. This training is not only for members who are new to the role of president or vice president, but also for those who have served in one of these roles for a year or more. Learning from each other is a large part of this training, and we look forward to seeing all board presidents and vice presidents on February 22nd. More training information will follow for this training. In closing, the BBR team would like to thank the members of the board and staff for their hard work and partnership over the last year. We look forward to 2024 and all the great work that lies ahead. Thank you for your continued service and for protecting the consumers of California. I appreciate your time this morning, and I'll hand it back to President Rosenbaum and take any questions from the board.
Thank you very much for that presentation.
You're welcome.
And thank you also for including the email addresses and giving them to Rebecca. So as I said before, we are going to, do we have any questions, I think specifically on this topic? Mr. Jacobson.
Dan Jacobson. So I am sorry, but I missed the DCA preferred deadline for filing the Form 700. What was that?
The actual deadline is April 1st, but the department is requesting that the members complete their training and file by March 15th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let me ask the board members if they have any questions or comments on any of the agenda items 2B, C, D, or this most recent one, E. And that would include the leadership roundtable update, the update on the sunset review, the announcement of committee and liaison assignments, and the DCA presentation. Seeing none, do we have any public comment here in Sacramento? Moderator, could you open it up for public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the President's report, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send, or you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand, and call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 5 minutes with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments on any of the President's report items? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. And let's move on. I'm also going to be handling the report of the Vice President. And in that, in item number 3A, are the appointments and reappointments to the Enforcement Advisory Committee. This item is to recommend the appointment of Christine Donnelly, CPA, and Ben Town, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee. As you know, the Enforcement Advisory Committee assists the CBA in an advisory capacity with enforcement activities. This includes reviewing closed investigation files, providing technical guidance on open investigations, and participating in investigative hearings. Vice President 2 conferred with the CBA Executive Officer to verify that both Ms. Donnelly and Mr. Town have met the appropriate requirements for license renewal and have demonstrated the skills and knowledge to serve as members of the Enforcement Advisory Committee. Can I get a motion to appoint Christine Donnelly, CPA, and Ben Town, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee through January 31, 2026? Yes, Ms. Lotto.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Ms. Hines, are you seconding? You're on mute.
Yes, I'm seconding,
Thank you very much.
despite the technical difficulty.
Okay, not a problem. Do you have any discussion regarding these appointments? Seeing none from the board, are there any comments from the public in Sacramento? None here. Moderator, could you open up the lines for any public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the appointments, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment and click send, or you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand, and call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Please, yes, please.
Thank you.
Ms. Reed, will you take the vote?
Evangeline Ward,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes,
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
and Patricia Batchelor.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much, and thank you all. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, the report of the Secretary Treasurer. I'll turn it over to Ms. Lotta for presentation of the governor's proposed budget.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum. The governor's proposed budget was released on January 10th, 2024. The CBA's proposed budget for the fiscal year 2024-25 is $19,863,000. The process for the legislature to review the governor's proposed budget will continue through June 15th, 2024, which is the state's constitutional deadline for the legislature to approve the budget act and submit it to the governor for approval. Once the governor approves the budget, it will become effective July 1st, 2024. Information on the CBA's approved budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 will be provided at the July 2024 CBA meeting. The CBA's mid-year financial report will be presented at the March meeting. That concludes my report. I will turn it back to President Rosenbaum.
Thank you very much on that report. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Do we have any questions or comments here in Sacramento? Moderator, could you please open the lines for any public comment?
Certainly. We've opened up the WebEx Q&A to facilitate public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, you can look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment and click send, or you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand, and our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments? I see no requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Now we're going to do a little bit of the agenda out of order, just to make use of the available time before lunch. So I'd like to move on to item number 6, reports on the Enforcement Advisory Committee, Qualifications Committee, and Peer Review Oversight Committee. We have no report from the Enforcement Advisory Committee, but we do have a report from the Qualifications Committee, Mr. Michael Williams.
Good afternoon, President Rosenbaum, members of the board. I am Michael Williams, Chair of the CBA's Qualifications Committee. I am happy to provide a report on the Qualifications Committee's January 24th meeting yesterday, which was held virtually. First, I would like to thank the newly appointed Qualifications Committee Liaison and CBA member, Patricia Batchelor, CPA, for attending our meeting and providing an overview of CBA's November 16th and 17th, 2023 CBA meeting. At our meeting, the QC discussed and approved the October 2023 meeting minutes. Staff provided an update on the recent changes to the uniform CPA examination and a report on long-term licensing data trends and the 2023 AICPA trends report. Since October 2023, the QC has convened 3 subcommittee meetings to conduct interviews with employers and applicants to review work papers of a test experience. In total, there were 2 personal appearances and 6 Section 69 reviews. 5 applicants were recommended for approval, 2 applicants were recommended for deferral, and 1 employer was instructed to submit a certificate of test experience. As a background, the QC conducts Section 69 reviews when staff believe additional or clarifying information is needed from a California licensee who has signed a certificate of experience, or when a licensee fails to submit a certificate of experience or comply with a request for explanation of experience. The next QC meeting will be held on April 24th, 2024. That concludes my report. At this time, I will turn it back to President Rosenbaum, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for continuing in your role.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Do we have any questions or comments from the public here in Sacramento first? Moderator, are there any questions or comments from the public?
If you would like to make a comment, you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, or you may click on the question mark icon, type the word comment, and click send. And now call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the Q&A?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
I'd now like to move on to item number 6C, a report by Laura Ross of the Peer Review Oversight Committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Rosenbaum, members of the board. I am Laura Ross, Chair of the CBA's Peer Review Oversight Committee. I am happy to provide a report on the PROC's December 8th meeting. First, I would like to thank Vice President Tu for attending our meeting and providing an overview of the CBA's activities from the September and November CBA meetings. The PROC members have engaged in several oversight activities since its August meeting. Members attended 9 report acceptance body meetings. PROC members reported that these meetings met all expectations. Additionally, members reviewed 2 out-of-state administering entities, the Oklahoma Society of CPAs and the Oregon Society of CPAs. It was determined that they complied with administrative procedures and standards in all material respects as established by the CBA. On November 27th and December 1st, PROC members Sharon Selleck and Nick Peterson completed the 2023 administrative site visit to the California Society of Certified Public Accountants. Licensing Chief Michelle Center was also in attendance. The PROC discussed 2 reports, the California Society of CPAs Oversight Report and the American Institute for Certified Public Accountants Annual Report. Lastly, the PROC reviewed and discussed the draft 2023 Peer Review Oversight Committee Annual Report. The PROC provided staff with edits and suggestions that the CBA staff will incorporate and bring back to the PROC for review and approval. The next PROC meeting will be held on February 16th, 2024. I would like to turn this item back over to President Rosenbaum, and I'd be happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all your work on the PROC. Do we have any questions or comments from members? Do we have any questions or comments from the public here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, can you see if there are any questions or comments from the public on web?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the report, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on the report? I see no requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Ross, for your continued service for the PROC. I'd like to now move over to one more agenda item before we break for lunch, and that's agenda item number 9, the approval and or the adoption and acceptance of various minutes. In 9A, we have the adoption of the November 16-17, 2023 California Board of Accountancy meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt those meetings, specifically noting that this includes non-substantive edits that were noted after the materials were received? Yes, Ms. Salazar.
I'd like to make that motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second? And second, Ms. Ward. Thank you. Are there any, well, actually, let's move to, well, let's go ahead and deal with that motion. Any questions or comments regarding Ms. Hines?
Just want to make sure that even though I was not in attendance at the meeting, I can vote to approve the minutes.
You can. You have an option to vote to approve or you can abstain.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments from members? Any comment from the public in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, could you open up the lines to see if there are any public comments from the public?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the first set of minutes, you may click on the hand icon to raise your hand. You may click on the question mark icon and type the word comment in the text box and click send, or call-in user may press *3 to raise their hand. Any comments on the first set of minutes? I see no requests for comment.
All right, thank you. Ms. Reed, can you take a roll for the vote?
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Abstain.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Evangeline Ward.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, items are items number 9B, C, D, and E. And these are minutes of the various CBA committees and advisory committees. Can I get a motion to accept those minutes, specifically these items B through E, which include non-substantive edits that were noted after the materials were received? Ms. Lotta.
I move to accept the minutes presented in agenda items 9B through E.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Corrigan.
Yes, I second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from any of the board members? Seeing none, do we have any questions or comments from the public in Sacramento? Also none. Moderator, can you see if there are any public comments on item 9B through E?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on any of the 4 sets of minutes, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send, or you may If you are a call-in user, you may press *3 to raise your hand. Any question on any of the 4 minutes? Comments? My apologies. I see no requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Can you take the vote to accept these minutes?
Evangeline Ward? Yes. Teresa Thompson?
Yes.
Katrina Salazar?
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Tony Lynn?
Yes.
Christian Lotta?
Yes.
Dan Jacobson?
I have to abstain because I was a member of one of these committees and sick.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines?
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan?
Yes.
And Patricia Batchelor? Yes. The motion carries.
Okay, at that point, I don't think we have anything else that we can fit in before our lunch recess. So let's go ahead and recess for lunch. But let's try to return at 12:25 if that is appropriate. Or sorry, give you 3 minutes. I can't think and look at my 1:25. Thank you. Agenda item number 5, report of the executive officer, Dominic Brenzella.
So, with your permission, President Rosenbaum, I'll turn it over to Deanne Pierce to handle the first item.
Thank you. Agenda item 5A is the proposed changes to the California Board of Accountancy Member Guidelines and Procedures Manual, or GMP Manual for short. The GMP Manual is designed to serve as a reference guide regarding the functions of the CBA and its committees. The edits are identified by underline and strike through. I'll highlight some of the substantive proposed changes. However, I'm happy to answer questions regarding any of the changes noted in the manual. On page 7, we removed the note regarding the provisions of Senate Bill 189, which are no longer valid. On page 12, we updated the number of enforcement complaints received. On pages 12 through 14, we updated the percentage of enforcement matters regarding default decisions, stipulated settlements, and proposed decisions. And on page 29, we updated the title of the sexual harassment prevention training. Page 30, we added information security awareness fundamentals training for members that have a CBA email address. There were other minor non-substantive changes made to improve overall clarity. This concludes my presentation, and I'd like to turn it back over to President Rosenbaum for a possible motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the proposed changes to the Board of Accountancy Member Guidelines and Procedures Manual? Ms. Corrigan.
Yes, I will move to, approve the proposed changes to the Guideline and Procedures Manual.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Batchelor.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or comments from any of our members regarding the changes that were outlined? No? Do we have any public comment in Sacramento? No. Moderator, could you open up the lines to see if we have any public comment on the proposed changes to the CBA's Member and Professional Member Guidelines and Procedures Manual?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the changes or the motion, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send. And any call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 5 minutes with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Reed, can we take a vote?
Patricia Batchelor?
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan?
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines?
Yes.
Dan Jacobson?
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Evangeline Ward.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Pierce. Let's move on to item 5B, the Administration Activity Report with Christy.
Good afternoon, President Rosenbaum and members of the board. I am Christy Abate, the Administrative Services Manager, and I will be presenting the activity report, Administration Activity Report. Before I begin, though, there was a supplemental memo dated January 17th that went out in the second mail out, if you want to take a second to reference that. The memo contains information and guidance regarding the department's finances budget letter 2327, which requires all state agencies to take immediate action to reduce current year expenditures. This means that any discretionary or non-mandated travel, training, and entering or renewing any non-essential contracts for the purchase of equipment or services will come to a hold. Expenditures deemed mission critical or essential to operations must go through an exemption request process and obtain prior approval from the Department of Consumer Affairs Executive Office before we can initiate any travel, training, or bidding out for any equipment or services. As stated in the memo, this has impacted the CBA's March meeting and outreach events that were scheduled for Southern California. The meeting will now be held at the CBA office, and David Hemphill will discuss some alternative outreach ideas during his communications and outreach report. Also impacted by the expenditure freeze is any planned out-of-state travel. This does impact attendance at the identified NASBA meetings, so those also have been canceled. We will continue to keep members appraised as additional information is received regarding the expenditure freeze. That concludes my presentation on this agenda item, and I'll turn it back over to President Rosenbaum, but I am also happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions regarding the budget letter, et cetera? Okay, thank you. Ms. Salazar.
I don't particularly have a question, but I understand the budget constraints. I am concerned about the inability to travel to the NASBA meetings. And so I guess I would just like to share that if any opportunities to participate virtually are made, that it is really important that our board continues to attend in person whenever possible, because that is a more educational experience. But please avail yourself to any virtual opportunities you may have to continue some of those conversations with the issues NASBA is engaging. So thank you.
Yes, Ms. Corrigan.
And I wondered, NASBA does offer scholarships. Would that apply, or would that ease? I mean, this is a matter of budget control, so that's cost. And would it be acceptable to apply for those scholarships that are available?
I would have to believe that's appropriate. Yes.
Historically, we've gotten guidance from legal that because we're under a contract with NASBA for computer-based testing, the uniform CPA exam, that accepting a scholarship for member travel would not be okay. Yes.
Do we have any other questions or comments? If not, we'll hold off on public questions and comments until after the next presentation. But thank you, Ms. Abate.
Thank you.
Next presentation is item number 5C, update on the California Board of Accountancy's communications and outreach by David Hemphill, our Information and Planning Officer.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum. Good afternoon, members of the CBA. I am David Hemphill, back for a few items for you here. And first off, let's start off with the communications and outreach report. I'd like to start by highlighting the success of our final outreach event of 2023, which was back in December. We partnered with Cal CPA to participate in their Talk to a CPA and the CBA event at Sacramento State University. Students were able to discuss the accounting profession with local CPAs and the requirements to be approved to sit for the CPA exam and for CPA licensure with CPA staff. The roundtable format of the event allowed staff to interact with smaller groups at a time for 10-minute intervals, which proved to be a really great way to get to know a diverse group of students. Additionally, staff was present to provide our always popular student transcript reviews. I'd also like to extend our gratitude to Qualifications Committee Vice Chair Timothy T. Jones, CPA, for his participation and for always lending his time to support CBA's outreach efforts. And a big thank you to Cal CPA as well for inviting us. As you just heard Ms. Sabate reference, our March meeting no longer happening on campus at the University of Southern California, the communications team is going to explore some other options, some virtual options for not just USC, but for all of our potential candidates here in the next few months as we continue with the uncertainty of the expenditure freeze. We have reached out directly to the University of Southern California with the goal of creating some sort of a virtual event specifically for their students and the possibility of conducting some of these transcript reviews that are always so popular, that in an online fashion. So we're exploring that, and I will keep you updated as we learn a little more about that. The team continues to produce high-quality multimedia content that informs stakeholders in this engaging fashion. 3 videos and 2 podcast episodes were produced since the last CBA meeting. The first video was a recap of the Sacramento State outreach event that I mentioned. The video uses narration by information and planning analyst Andrew Finkel, which was filmed right at the event. Next up, the team produced a recruitment video to inform potential applicants about everything that goes on within the CBA's 3 divisions. And by applicants here, I mean for potential jobs at the CBA. It features members of our staff expressing why they love working here. We hope this video will help to attract a greater amount of interested applicants for our open positions. The video lives on the Working at the CBA page of the website, where our job openings are listed. I would like to show you the third video that we created announcing the recently approved CPA exam credit extensions, which of course went over very well. You might recognize the narrator of this one, so let us take a look. Da-da-da. And roll video.
This is the moderator, just one moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The California Board of Accountancy has great news for California CPA exam candidates. The CBA approved 3 sets of credit extensions to assist candidates in the transition to the new version of the CPA exam under CPA Evolution, and in response to the significant health, economic, education, and travel disruptions resulting in CPA.
My apologies, one moment.
Sounded good. Sorry.
I'm sure that's entirely yours. Let's see.
Oh, I recognize that guy.
The California Board of Accountancy has great news for California CPA exam candidates. The CBA approved 3 sets of credit extensions to assist candidates in the transition to the new version of the CPA exam under CPA Evolution, and in response to the significant health, economic, education, and travel disruptions resulting in CPA exam candidate hardships over the past several years. Let's break them down. The first extension is for all exam credits that expired between January 30th, 2020 and December 31st, 2023. These credits are once again valid and being extended until June 30th, 2025. The second extension is for all current exam credits valid on December 31st, 2023. These credits are also being extended until June 30th, 2025. The third extension is for all credits that will be earned beginning in January 2024. These credits will now be valid for 30 months instead of the current time frame of 18 months. Candidates now have a 30-month window in which to pass all 4 sections of the CPA exam, 12 months longer than they had previously. The newly extended dates have already started showing up in candidates' client accounts. No action is necessary to take advantage of these extensions. The CBA hopes that these extensions will provide a renewed opportunity for candidates to pass the CPA exam and follow through with their aspirations of becoming a CPA. The CBA has a webpage dedicated to information about the credit extensions, featuring a handy flowchart and many frequently asked questions, including whether or not candidates can potentially be refunded for scheduled sections. Click the Credit Extensions banner on the CBA website to get there.
Right, there you go. I'm just really proud of the team and the quality of the videos that the CBA is able to produce, and I think that's another good example. Moving into the audio space, we produced 2 new episodes of the Accounting for California podcast this month. The first is a great conversation featuring our CBA president, Joseph Rosenbaum, CPA, discussing his road to become a CPA, which took him halfway around the world. And rugby was involved, so you need to listen to that. You'll learn a lot about our fearless leader. And he discusses his priorities for the CBA in 2024, among lots of other interesting things. He has got some good stories. The next episode features CBA Qualifications Committee Chair Michael L. Williams, CPA. It's focused on educating consumers with the knowledge they need to know the differences of services performed by CPAs who maintain a license with or without the authority to sign reports on a test engagement. So thanks to both of you for participating in our podcast. That second episode will be posted to the website next week. The CBA recently issued 4 news releases announcing our newest members, the election of our new officers. We just did one this week about the reappointment of Ms. Batchelor, and one about the exit of Mr. Michael Savoy, CPA, from the CBA after nearly 13 years of service. We've begun a new practice of translating our releases into a language other than English. And so far, we published releases in Spanish and simplified Chinese. This helps fulfill our goal of growing audience diversity, as outlined in the Communications and Outreach Plan. As you may have seen on social media, our celebratory issue 100 of Update was published in December, right here. The issue has all the usual information about recent and upcoming CBA activities, but we also included a bunch of fun historical elements. I told you about it last time, including photos from the CBA archives that will take you on a trip back in time. So hopefully you've had a chance to look through it, but if not, we do have some copies there at the back table if you would like to take a peek at that. The CBA's social media presence keeps growing rapidly thanks to our structured content calendar. In fact, 2023 saw the most significant growth in recent years for CBA's social platforms. We added over 2,000 followers for almost an 18% total increase. The graphs and stats in the social media section of the report give you a good look at how substantial the growth was this year compared to past years. It's also exciting to note that we ended the year on a high. CBA social platforms experienced their greatest single month of growth ever in December, adding nearly 400 new followers just in the 1 month. The great news we had to share about the credit extensions really fueled this increase, and we are very excited about this year's potential. So that concludes my presentation on the Communications and Outreach Report. I'll now turn it back to President Rosenbaum, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. I loved the video. For now, for our 2 recent reports, the Administration Activity Report and the Communications and Outreach Update, do we have any further comments here, comments or questions from any of our members? Yes, Ms. Ward.
I have a question, and I might have asked and may have told me, I don't remember, but do you go to the community colleges or only to the state universities?
We did not go to any community colleges last year, but it is certainly something that is, well, would have been on the table as our outreach in person is kind of on pause for now. But absolutely, that's going to be part of ours. And historically, we have done some events. There was Cal CPA has an event specifically to community colleges that we have been involved with in the past. So we look forward to continuing that. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Hemphill. I just wanted to give congratulations and thanks to your team, you and your team, for the materials and the videos produced. They're of great quality, and I'm sure the students and candidates can see the improvements and the changes that we've been swiftly making. So just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Do we have any further comments from the board? Do we have any comments from the public in Sacramento? Moderator, could you please see if there are any public comments on the administration activity report or the communications and outreach update?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on either of the two presentations, you may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send, or you may click on the hand icon in order to raise your hand. If you have any call-in members, they are welcome to press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the presentations? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you. Okay, let's continue on. Mr. Hemphill, now that you're here with item number 5D, the discussion and possible action regarding the 2024 Communications and Outreach Plan.
Thank you. I would be happy to. Thank you. I would like to discuss the 2024 Communications and Outreach Plan. So the purpose of this agenda item is to provide the board with an opportunity to discuss, provide feedback, and possibly approve the proposed 2024 Communications and Outreach Plan, which I'll now refer to as the 2024 Plan. And it has been, you can view it as Attachment 1. So the goal of a communications and outreach plan is to provide a framework that discusses the CBA's strategic communication and outreach goals and how it intends to increase the volume and effectiveness of its activities in pursuit of those goals. Many aspects of the 2024 plan are consistent with or build upon the CBA-approved 2023 plan, including the target audiences and messaging goals, while the priorities have been updated to reflect where we would like to focus this year. I'm happy to report that all priorities outlined in the 2023 plan were accomplished last year, with work continuing into 2024 to further those goals. Attachment 2 provides a detailed update on our progress with those priorities listed in the 2023 plan. As far as this year's plan, it includes the following proposed priorities: enhanced social media engagement, digital-based outreach, sunset review, the 2024 CPA exam. So we're kind of shifting how we're focusing CPA evolution and now just focusing on what's new and now about the 2024 exam. The CPA exam credit extensions will continue. Fee increases, we got to get the word out about that. Pre-licensure ethics examination change. Update publications will continue. Outreach events, and of course that focus is going to change a little bit now that we understand how that may be happening in 2024. The website updates, resource material refreshing, growing audience diversity, of course, still very important, meetings with legislators and legislative staff, and licensee email messages. So staff welcome any feedback the board may have, and we recommend that the CBA approve the 2024 plan. So that concludes my presentation on the plan. I'll turn it back over to President Rosenbaum, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the plan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hemphill. Any comments or questions from the board? Yes. Actually.
Mr. Hemphill, whenever we make videos, are they just archived on the CBA website if they're still relevant and not taken down?
We have a page that's just videos where they are all there. So you can go back, you know, a little ways. We weren't making too many videos in years past, but yes, we have a videos page, and we also have an outreach events videos page, so specific to some of our presentations. Yeah.
Actually, I was a little bit out of order. I'd like to first get a motion to approve your 2024 Communications and Outreach Plan. Could I have such a motion from one of our members? Ms. Ward.
I move to accept the the approved plan for 2024 plan.
Okay, do I have a second? Ms. Corrigan?
I will second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, do we have any other questions or comments regarding the 2024 plan? Seeing none here, are there any questions or comments from the public in Sacramento? And none here. Moderator, could you please seek if there are any public comments regarding the 2024 Communication and Outreach Plan?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the outreach plan, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send, or our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. Ms. Reed, can you take the vote?
Evangeline Ward,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
and Patricia Batchelor.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, great. So you've got your 2024 plan. Keep up the good work. Let's move to agenda item 5E. Again, a presentation from David Hemphill regarding consumer information on the California Board of Accountancy's website.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum. Yes, so the presentation regarding consumer information on the CBA website. So the purpose of this item is to provide an update on the progress of a recommendation that was made last year by the consideration of the CPA Experience Requirements Task Force, which we called CERT, for the CBA to expand our outreach efforts regarding consumers' knowledge of what services are provided by licensees with and licensees without the authority to sign reports on attest engagements. To fulfill this recommendation and better inform consumers, staff strategically curated new content in the audio space, on our website, and in print. Just this month, we recorded a new episode of the Accounting for California podcast featuring CBA Qualifications Committee Chair Michael L. Williams, CPA. He discussed what it means when a CPA has the authority to sign reports on attest engagements, why additional experience is required to gain this authority, and lots of other good, useful items that the consumer will find very helpful. I definitely want to thank him for participating in that. The episode will be posted on the podcast page of the CBA website next week and will be shared on all CBA social media platforms to maximize listenership. Along with the podcast, we've expanded the information provided to consumers on our website. A new Attest Authority page, which is located under the Consumers tab, was created to provide information in an easy-to-read format and give a visual understanding of the information by using graphics to show the differences in services provided. And I would actually like to show it to you right now. Okay, there it is. So first you go on the Consumers tab here, and that's where you'll find it. So you see it right up front. We're encouraging them to use the license lookup feature. And then we have circled there that the two options under experience completed are the letters A or G. Then we go down to describe exactly what that means. So the A is someone who can perform all accounting services and is authorized to sign reports on attest engagements, whereas the G, they can still perform all accounting services, they can prepare reports on attest engagements, but they're not authorized to sign. So that's all straightforward right there. Then we have a nice handy little table here. You see all the red check marks are ones that those with the attest authority experience, or A, can do. And then on the right, the green check marks, all the things that those without the attest authority experience, or the G, are able to do. So there's right on top the signing of reports on attest engagements, which is essentially really the only difference, because as you see right below that, performing the reports, and then we kind of list whether it's audit, review of financial statements, prospective financial information, agreed upon procedures. You can kind of see they're kind of in each category there, all the checks, and then we kind of scroll down and there's all the other services that both of them can perform. And then down at the bottom here, we have a link to the consumer assistance booklet, which I'm going to mention momentarily, and then a little more of a fuller description of the G and the A and exactly the requirements that go into each of those. So much of that information can also be found in the soon-to-be updated consumer assistance booklet. Here, I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Okay. So the Consumer Assistance Booklet online is a great resource which provides consumers with guidance on how to properly select a CPA that's right for their needs. We're working on an updated version of this booklet that's going to present the information in a more organized fashion, and we're going to replace the version that's currently on the website with the new version, which is currently being designed, and that should be up there within the next few weeks. Staff feels that this new information will absolutely expand consumers' knowledge of CPAs with or without a test authority and the services they can provide. So that concludes my presentation on this agenda item. Turn it back for the final time to President Rosenbaum, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for you? Anyone have any questions on the website? I think it's pretty robust and very well organized. We went through it yesterday in a little more depth, and I thought that was very nice. Any questions from those in Sacramento? Moderator, would you please see if there are any public comments on the latest presentation?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the website presentation, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send. And if anyone has a calling connection, you may press *3 to raise your hand. Are there any comments on the website? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Hemphill. Keep up the communications and outreach. Okay, let's move on to item number 7, and we'll hear from our Enforcement Chief, Carrie O'Connor.
Good afternoon. I'm Carrie O'Connor, and I'm the Chief of the Enforcement Division. The activity report before you today is for the first 5 months of fiscal year 2023-24. The CBA received nearly 2,500 complaints. The graph on the bottom of page 1 provides a comparison of the total complaints received as of the same reporting period for the prior 2 fiscal years. Members will see that we have experienced a 64% increase over the same period of the prior fiscal year. Moving on to page 2, we have included information on the top 3 complaint types, with complaints regarding unlicensed activity being the top complaint type. Moving on to investigations and investigations pending on page 3. At the end of the first 5 months of the fiscal year, we had closed just shy of 2,800 cases, with 94% closed within 1 year. The average days to close investigations was 110 days, and enforcement had 1,743 cases in its pending investigations inventory. There were 3 cases over 24 months old, which were still being actively investigated at the time, as of November 30th. Since that time, 1 case has now been scheduled for an investigative hearing next week, and 2 of those cases have been referred to the Attorney General's Office for Discipline. You will see that the average age of our open cases is 118 days. Discipline-related information can be found on page 4 of the report. Looking first at AG referrals, the CBA received 17 matters to the Attorney General's office and filed 13 pleadings, with the majority being accusations. The CBA had 30 matters pending at the AG office, and the CBA had taken action on 15 final disciplinary orders. Next, I'll discuss citations and fines on page 5. The CBA issued 387 citations, and 78% of those citations were issued due to a violation related to the 2012 continuing education requirements. The CBA received 43 citation and fine appeals, and we have withdrawn or modified 22 citations based on those appeals. In most cases, the licensee either provided new mitigating evidence or complied with the issue that resulted in the issuance of the citation. Page 6 contains information regarding unlicensed activity. The CBA had received 1,000 complaints regarding unlicensed activity. We have closed a little over 1,200 investigations through the first 5 months of the fiscal year, with majority closed as a result of compliance. The final area of the report I'd like to highlight is on page 7, related to probation monitoring. We had 76 licensees on probation, with 3 new probationers since the last report and 5 probation orientations completed. We identified 23 probation violations, with the majority being failure to submit their written quarterly reports. And at this time, I'd like to turn the discussion on this item over to President Rosenbaum, and would be happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. O'Connor. Any questions regarding the enforcement activity? No questions from our members. Do we have any questions from the public in Sacramento? Okay, moderator, could you open the lines to see if we have any public comment?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the report, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send, and call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Next item on the agenda is item number 8, report of the licensing chief and the licensing activity report, which will be handled by Mr. Ortega.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President Rosenbaum. My name is Eulalia Ortega, manager of the examination unit in our licensing division. This license activity report, or LAR, covers July 1st through November 30th, 2023. The LAR begins with the reporting of the processing times, and I'm pleased to report that our processing times continue to be below 30 days. Noted on page 2 of the LAR, there were over 55,200 stakeholder inquiries in the form of emails and telephone calls. This is inclusive of CBA calls directed to the DCA call center. Moving on to page 3 and 4, as of November 30th, the examination unit has approved 3,139 first-time applicants to sit for the CPA exam, and the initial licensing unit has approved over 1,280 applications for CPAs and firms. Briefly, I'd like to call your attention to the number of corporation licenses issued listed in the initial licensing table on page 4. Unfortunately, the reported number is a typo. The actual number of licenses issued is 85 and not 32. So apologies for the error there, but staff will ensure that the correct number is updated for the March report. On to page 5 through 7, data related to renewal statistics, renewal deficiencies, and continuing education audits are displayed. And lastly, table 7 includes CA audit data. This data denotes that 376 licensees were selected so far for an audit in fiscal year 23-24. Of those, 257 have been found to be compliant, while 85 are still in process. This concludes my presentation. I will now turn it back over to President Rosenbaum, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from any of our board members? Are there any questions or comments from the public in Sacramento? Moderator, could you please open the lines to see if we have any public comment on the licensing activity report?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment on the licensing report, you may look for the hand icon, click that to raise your hand. You may click on the question mark icon, type the word comment into that text box and click send, or our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the licensing report? I do not see any requests for comments. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ortega. Okay, the next item on our agenda is now item number 10, other business. And the first item under other business A, the 10A, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and we have a report on meetings of the AICPA attended by California Board of Accountancy representatives. First up is the AICPA's Board of Examiners, Ms. Katrina Salazar.
Thank you very much, Chair Rosenbaum. What I would like to share with the Board of Accountancy is just a brief report from the Board of Examiners. Also goes by the word BOE. So there have been frequent meetings. This organization, this subcommittee actually schedules monthly meetings. So they're meeting monthly, if not bi-monthly, depending on the weight of the agenda. So the last meeting was on December 18th, and at that time, the majority of the conversation was around preparing for the big exam transition. There was an increase in volume last quarter, the fourth quarter of the calendar year. That was expected as candidates really rushed into tests prior to the new exam launch. And there was a lot of efforts at that time to prepare, and that was NASBA, AICPA, as well as Prometric, all working together, meeting throughout December and January to help ensure that exam launch went smoothly. As part of the BOE, once that exam launched, there were daily updates as that happened. So I'm very pleased to report that the launch did go smoothly. You are aware that the exam is administered around the world, so it's really a global exam. So it actually started, it first launched overseas, so Korea, Japan, India, and the Middle East were the first locations that started with the exam. Shortly after that, the U.S.-based candidates launched, and I was excited to receive updates throughout that process that those were happening as expected. It was a successful launch. Examinations were being delivered in all 6 sections, and that the candidate responses were flowing back to AICPA to begin the grading process. And so again, that grading process, AICPA has a lot of information on the website for candidates and board members and boards to understand what that timeline is as it goes through and continues its process. So just wanted to share with you that there was a lot of work among the 3 organizations that it takes working together to make the exam happen, and the launch was very successful. And I know NASBA also gave a very robust update as well and talked about a lot of the work that that organization put into it. So with that, I just wanted to share that there is another BOE meeting coming up shortly, and I expect it will be largely focused on those exam results and hearing more about how the launch proceeded. With that, that concludes the BOE report.
Thank you very much. Do you have any initial indication as to volume of those taking the new exam compared to the old exam?
So I don't have volume answers. I will have more at the next meeting to report a little bit more specifics. The expectation, though, has been that volume will drop off, and that is what is expected. What I thought was helpful was I have heard that all of the exam sections have had candidates take some. So the big question was, what about the new ISC exam? Would anyone take it? And the answer is that yes, candidates are actually sitting for it. But I apologize for not having published results to share. But all indications so far are that that those options are out there and they're being pursued by those that are interested.
Oh, excellent. That sounds great. Do you have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, well, let's move on before we go to public comment. We'll take public comment on all the other business as a group. But let's move on then. Ms. Corrigan for the state committee.
There was no state board committee meeting. There will be one. So no response.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, moving on. A question on that?
Do you want to report on the board meeting for NASBA, or would you? Perfect, thank you.
We're not there.
So we'll move on to item number B1. You're not going to get away just yet, Ms. Salazar. So could you do a report on the the NASBA director at large?
With respect to Ms. Corrigan, did you prepare for that as well?
There is no.
Why don't we let you start and I'll chime in if I have any add-ons. So sorry, Mr. Rosenbaum. Chair Rosenbaum, apologies for the confusion.
Sorry, that's okay. I was a little confused as to who's got reports and who doesn't.
Okay, so as I attended the NASBA Board of Directors meeting as the Pacific Regional Director, that was last week. So we are basically back home and here we are. So that's how short it's been. That was on the 19th and we received, naturally, we always receive the operating and financial reports. That sort of thing is routine for those meetings. We elected board members for the Center for Public Trust, another arm of NASBA. We heard that the Alliance for Responsible Professional Licensing, which we know better as ARPL, conducted a survey of some 600 businesses and determined that there is a reliance on licensing for professionalism and quality, reliable services. And they're putting together information to publicize those results. We know that there's been a big national effort to de-license or deregulate, professions and others. And so we're strongly against that sort of thing. We had, as you can well imagine, a very extensive discussion of the 120 versus 150 units, just as we had earlier today, and the task force that we made reference to earlier in the meeting. So, the makeup of those additional 30 units, what it should be, and the options, the alternatives, that sort of thing. Because, of course, our chair wanted to get a feeling for NASBA board members and what the take on it all was. Similar to what we discussed in here, we need definitions, we need measurements, we need to know, are we maintaining rigor, or are we going to have an output of quality CPAs, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of work to do there along those lines, as you can well imagine. Not wanting to detract from those universities that have gone to the effort of implementing master's programs to help, candidates achieve their education. Some jurisdictions, a small handful, are being very aggressive and wanting to make legislative changes right now, not necessarily considering what happens with the rest of the nation. So that's really kind of a scary situation that they might move too quickly. This task force has caused some of them to just kind of relax and let's watch and wait and see what happens, and hopefully they will continue to do that. It's projected that 75% of today's CPAs may retire in the next 15 years. And that's kind of a scary thought too. So a lot of work to be done there. it's been made very clear that as these alternate, and they call them pathways, we have to be careful because in California, there was a time when we had pathways and we had definitions for those, that many details must still be worked out. And one of those basically how to measure experience, if there's that option of experience versus education, how that is to be measured. And those are the highlights of the board meeting. If you want me to continue on, I'll go on with the other sections of NASBA.
By all means.
Thank you. Okay. So the Relations with Member Boards Committee, which is where I really function as Pacific Regional Director, we had a Zoom meeting on January 9th, and that was to prepare questions for NASBA leadership because we have the advantage of leadership coming in and answering our questions directly, our concerns and what we may have, because then of course we're going to go back to our regions and discuss those things once NASBA releases information. And then we met in person on the 18th, the day before the board meeting, to review the annual meeting breakout discussions, which I presented to all of you at our November meeting because those breakout sections happened in late October, early November. So I reported that, but we received answers to our questions that we directed to NASBA leadership. We wanted to know the status of the pipeline task force, status of the executive search. Ken Bishop, the current president and CEO, is retiring after 13 years, so it's a massive search and it is well underway. We understand they have some excellent candidates. Status of the professional licensure task force, huge question, right? And report on transition of the new CPA exam format. So as Ms. Salazar mentioned, the conversion is complete. The score releases are coming. They are yet to come. They did report that, of course, as we expected, there was a massive rush in the fourth quarter of 2023 to get that exam out of the way. And scores were not as good as they might have been previously because a lot of candidates kind of just jammed in there to take it, and they may not have been as prepared as they might have been. So that's kind of the way that went. And when we say that it went smoothly, it wasn't effortlessly because NASBA staff, and of course, who knows, lots of other bodies as well, but had to really cram a lot of extra time in. They were hesitant to just hire temporary people because it's like you spend so much time showing them what to do, the work isn't done. So they had to put in a tremendous amount of overtime to complete it, and they did. And so January 10th was the actual conversion, and like I said, the score releases are coming. So the only other couple things, something to note, we planned our questions for the upcoming February regional calls. So I know for my region, the dates, I believe, have gone out or are going out shortly to attend that. We did preliminary planning for the regional meeting for Western. That's Omaha, Nebraska, June 25th to 27th. Eastern is doing theirs early in the month in Louisville, Kentucky. Sadly, there will be limitations on who from CBA might attend that. So, you know, that's, and I have one more section I can cover, Mr. President, if you like. So I chair the Enforcement Resources Committee. We met on January 10th via Zoom. It was introductory. It was an orientation meeting where I reminded those on the committee what our charge is. And we established topics to cover the coming year. One of the things we have to do is finish unfinished projects from the prior year, largely having to do with a disciplinary survey that was distributed but never quite completed and summarized and that sort of thing. So we'll have to see how old that is and how useful it is and decide how to go forward. The Enforcement Resources Committee newsletter was kind of on hold in the prior year, and we want to activate and be more consistent about getting that out. And two new topics, Department of Labor Audit Deficiencies Initiative. The Department of Labor has in the past kind of reared up when they were just finding more audit deficiencies, and it has now, a few years later, reared up again. So we want to start dealing with that. And another one that kind of comes from our direction is large firm issues with respect to disciplinary matters and how those are being handled and ways that they can be handled. So that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very thorough and quite a lot to cover there. Yes, Ms. Salazar.
Thank you, Chair Rosenbaum. I was hoping I could add a couple other comments on to that. Is it was a very thorough report, but there was some other things that also caught my attention to share. One of the things that I learned, not from the BOE, but actually from NASBA, and it was recalled to my mind by a conversation we had about the services NASBA provides to our board. One of the things they do with examinations is where a candidate for the CPA exam requires some special accommodations. That service is addressed by NASBA. And there was a blackout period as the exam converted over. So candidates had until December 15th to take the 2023 exam. And there was sort of a blackout period for 2 weeks, just in case anybody needed to retest or there was a blackout, a technical issue. There were actually, we learned at the NASBA meeting, 27 students that required retests as of that December 15th cutoff date. And one of those was one of our California candidates that did require special accommodation. So what I learned is NASBA, again, with providing the services, really did go over and above. They actually had a NASBA employee that flew out to California to the site where our candidate was going to be testing, who required accommodations, just to make sure that everything was loaded, the candidate was able to test as needed. Because again, the challenge is that exam isn't available in 2024, so there really was a deadline. So this examination was scheduled, I believe, for December 30th, so really right to the wire. So I just thought I would mention that there is a lot that happens behind the scenes that we all take for granted, and it was just sort of a fun and interesting fact. We talk about the work, but it required someone flying cross country because a candidate scheduled literally on the last day possible, and so it's a testament to that. I would also mention that in November, this board commented on the UAA model rules around peer review, and that 60-day comment period did conclude, and that there were no changes. There were 5 comment letters received, and as a result, the UAA did not make any amendments, so the NASBA board did vote to accept those amendments as proposed that the board had seen and voted on. So I did just want to mention that, as well as share that nationally, Nancy, you might have mentioned this, the credit relief initiative that we've talked about here, that we are promoting internally, that is being adopted across the U.S. And again, we're seeing a lot of states. And so now we did report on that progress. And it's nice to see that candidates in many, many other states are also being able to benefit from those initiatives. So just wanted to share a little bit more color to that, and thank you very much for indulging me.
Thank you both very much for your presentations, and thank you both very much for your service to both the AICPA and NASBA, and in keeping us informed of all the activities that those bodies undertake. At this point, are there any questions comments on any of the presentations that were made by Ms. Corrigan and Ms. Salazar? Do I have any comments or questions from the public in Sacramento? No? Moderator, would you please open the lines to see if we have any questions from the public?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make any comments on the summaries of the meetings, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send. And our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on the presentations? I do not see any requests for comments. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much for the presentations on the AICPA and the NASBA activities. And that concludes agenda item number 10. Okay, let's continue then with item number 11, the report of the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee, the Committee on Professional Conduct, and the Legislative Committee. First up would be agenda item 11A, the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee, Ms. Ward.
Thank you. This is the report for the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee for January 25th, 2024. The purpose of this agenda item is to provide members with an overview of the California Board of Accountancy, CBA, probation monitoring program. This overview highlighted the key points in the probation monitoring process, including the issuance of disciplinary order and assignment of probation terms, intake and orientation of new probationers, monitoring probationers for compliance, and actions taken at the conclusion of the probation term. This was informational item, and no action was taken on this item. Moving to CBA item 11A3, discussion regarding modifying the tolling term and the addition of license surrendering term to disciplinary guidelines and model orders. The purpose of this item is to provide members an opportunity to update the California CBA disciplinary guidelines and model orders guidelines. 1, modify the tolling term to be used as an optional term for probation and include language within the term as provided in an underlying text with attachment 1 to allow the certain circumstances to not be considered tolling, such as the licensee has permanently relocated outside of California and has no intention of returning to or practicing in California. Number 2, add a standard term and condition to the guidelines to allow a licensee to surrender a license while on probation as provided in attachment 2. The EPOC recommends that the CBA approve the proposed changes to the definition of tolling and to make it an optional term of probation as provided in attachment 1, and approve the language to add the license surrender as a standard term of probation as provided in attachment 2. This is a fully formed motion and does not require a second. I will turn it back to President Rosenbaum for discussion and a vote.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ward. Do we have any questions, comments, or discussion regarding the proposed motion and changes? None from the board. Do we have any public comment or questions from the public in Sacramento? Moderator, could you please open the public lines to see if we have any public comment or questions regarding the current motion?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment on the motion, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment in the text box and click send, or our call-in users may press *3 to raise your hand. Are there any comments on the motion? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Reed, will you please take the vote?
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Evangeline Ward.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for your work. Next item, item 11B, the CPC. Ms. Christian Lotta.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum. I will now provide the report of the Committee on Professional Conduct meeting from today. So I will start with agenda item 11B2, discussion and update on the students understanding the requirements to be a certified public accountant project. I'll refer to that as SURE CPA going forward, and the recommendations. Staff provided an update on the SURE CPA project. The purpose of the SURE CPA project is to provide future CPA applicants, educational institutions, professional associations, and other stakeholders with a better understanding of the educational requirements for CPA licensure. Staff explained the results of phase 1 of the SURE CPA project, which consisted of gathering information and compiling data from an online survey and outreach events. These events, designed to gather information from college students and faculty, were held on the campuses of California State University San Bernardino, California State Polytechnic University Pomona, and California State University Sacramento. The online survey tailored questions to individuals based on their proximity to and experience with the licensure process. The CBA received a total of 556 responses from the survey, providing productive suggestions and feedback. Staff gave an overview of what the data said. Based off the information gathered, staff presented 4 concepts for the CPC to consider for how staff should move forward with the development of potential initiatives, which is phase 2 of the project. The concepts were: update outdated course titles to reflect current offerings. 2, make modifications to the subject area categories of the educational requirements, such as the 20-unit accounting study and 10-unit ethics study requirements for licensure. 3, streamline the education review process to potentially allow a direct approval for certain degrees. And 4, explore other avenues regarding experiential learning. Staff also reported on progress in updating various outreach materials. The CPC discussed all 4 concepts and would like staff to pursue further information on all of them. The committee specifically expressed being open to updating outdated course titles, although a comment was made that junior colleges and state universities are currently working towards unified verbiage, and waiting until that is achieved first might save some extra work. Making modifications to how we categorize the requirements was encouraged by the CPC, especially in regards to the accounting subjects and accounting study categories. While there was a caution against lowering the ethics requirement, the CPC was open to researching options related to the 10-unit ethics requirements. Creating an expressway for certain degrees to earn automatic approval was also discussed favorably. Additional research is requested to determine how often an accounting degree would not meet the requirements. It was noted to consider confirming that education is from an accredited university. The CPC wants staff to continue to monitor the experiential learning proposals that are happening on a national level, such as the structured professional program being discussed by NASBA. No action was taken by the CPC. President Rosenbaum, can I move on to the next item?
Yes, please continue.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item 11B3, discussion and possible action regarding the experiential learning concept being considered by NASBA, their professional licensure task force. Staff provided the CPC an opportunity to review and discuss the NASBA Professional Licensure Task Force concept regarding a structured experiential learning program. NASBA Task Force has focused its discussions on a structured experiential learning program that would provide a means for candidates with 120 units to gain additional experience in lieu of 150 semester units to meet licensure requirements. NASBA is posing the question: do you believe that the task force should continue to focus its discussions on an equivalent path to licensure that defines a structured professional program that would qualify an individual to licensure as a CBA? In addition, CPA, I'm sorry, there's a typo there. In addition, NASBA has provided an optional area to feedback as to why a board of accountancy has selected their decision either yes or no. Staff recommended that the CBA answer the NASBA survey in the affirmative, whilst also including the follow-up questions provided by staff. The CPC discussed additional topics to be incorporated into the questions, including clarification on military experience, accreditation of programs, proportion of soft skills in the relationship to the already existing one-year experience requirement. The CPC recommends that the CBA delegate authority to the president to respond to the exposure draft in the affirmative, including questions to NASBA as included in the agenda materials and discussed during the public meeting. This is a fully formed motion and a second is not needed. I'll return it back to President Rosenbaum for comments and a vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any, I know there's a robust conversation at the committee meeting today. Are there any other comments from anyone? Any comments or questions? The only one that I would add is that maybe we would put another question in somehow related to industry. And there was a maybe off agenda idea there, but the question whether, you know, doing your equivalency or whatever they might develop, whether that would be applicable to those working in industry as well as those in public accounting firms. But if we don't have any other questions, and that's going to be something that staff will put together anyway. Any other questions, comments? Oh, Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate very quickly what I had said at the accounting, excuse me, at the CPC meeting, and that's that staff should work with NASDA in a way that beware of making sure that if the experiential structural replacement for the 30 units is in fact substantially the same thing or substantially equivalent. And that's comes from the experience that I see in the legal profession. In the legal profession, there is what I see as very much a dumbing down, so that because the bar passage rate has lowered. So how does what's the response? Well, the response is to make the bar exam easier. It's 2 days instead of the traditional 3 days now. It's the passing score is lower, and now there's talk of ways of doing away with a pathway of doing away with the bar exam completely. And the latest is to have a performance exam. In the past, the Supreme Court has rejected maybe one or two of the Bar Board of Governors suggestions. And this is something where it seems that it starts somewhere on the national level, where the ABA has said, listen, law schools, if you don't increase or stop decreasing the passage rate of the bar passage rate of your students, we're going to yank your accreditation. So then my hypothesis is that the law schools then go to the Board of Governors of the bar, and you end up with this dumbing down. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware that we don't want to dumb down. We may want something, an alternative, but we want to keep the same level of CPAs that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. I think from the conversation that I listened into on the committee, that was something that that everyone on the committee felt was likewise important, as do I. So I think we should all keep that in mind. Thank you very much. Is there any public? What? Oh, geez, sorry. Ms. Hines, sorry, I didn't see the hand.
Thank you. I tried to get my hand up first because I anticipated that the direction this was going in. I want to be mindful and um, also caution our members and particularly our agency to be really careful about and intentional about the language that's being used when we describe issues like this. To use terminology that is derogatory about something that is really, this significant is a distraction, I think, and unhelpful. It distracts from what our intention is, and that's to ensure that we're protecting the competency of the folks that are pursuing this profession. And so I'm dismayed by the use of the terminology that my fellow member Mr. Jacobson just used about dumbing down of the um, regulations and the testing that we use in order to measure the competency of professions. Um, while I appreciate his opinion and his anecdotal evidence or, opinion about where he thinks the direction of the legal profession and how that correlates to the direction of the accountancy profession, may be genuine. I wanted to be really clear that we're basing our decisions upon actual evidence and a real research into what's the best methods that we should be using to make sure that we're protecting the public in licensing accountants, and that we're not being, swayed inappropriately by, subjective opinions and perspectives that are not, that there's not a real correlation that's being shown. So just like our professions have evolved with the use of technology, our understanding of how to measure competency and readiness can evolve and can be measured by things in newer ways. And I think that it's important for us to be open to learning new things and to taking in new information and to being forced to really examine the rationale behind why we do things a certain way and to make sure that we're doing them because they actually do measure, some measure what the competency and readiness of the professionals are, rather than being mere gatekeeping or antiquated methods that feel more comfortable for us to hold on to. So that's that's the impression that I got from listening into the earlier discussion. And I just continue to be concerned about us being really, like I said, intentional and reflective about the language that we're using so that it doesn't distract from what our goal is, which is, like I said, to protect the competency of and the credibility of the profession.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Just a reminder, though, that this particular item is simply requesting that NASBA continue their research into this topic. Ms. Salazar.
I'm sorry, can I just add, I understand that, but we're on the record and all of these comments are on the record. So we have this language in the record, and I don't want our record to be imbalanced. I want it to be I wanted to make sure that that concern was reflected on the record as well in the moment.
Thank you. Ms. Salazar.
Thank you very much, Chair Rosenbaum. I appreciate that. I want to show support for the letter being delegated to your authority to complete. One of the things that was mentioned that I do think is really important, I think it was one of the questions, was scalability. Is this an only 30 hours? Because we do believe that, or at least I believe there are people out there, candidates, who maybe have 15 hours. Can this, whatever this opportunity may look like as it's being developed, would it fit them if they don't need 30, if they need something less? And so that is one, a comment. Two, I would like to direct towards staff just the question, now that we have early entry, as maybe we're getting more information, do we have any ability, anecdotal or maybe down the road, to get feedback about where our California students are coming out of their undergraduate program with a certain number of units, to know where our candidates what the gaps are looking like. So I know to put more meat on that statement, I know some universities tailor their 4-year program to capture all 150 hours. Others do not. There's so many ways to get to a CPA. There's master's programs. There's the ability to customize it with individual courses. So I'm just curious. My question to staff is, do we have the ability at some point to bring additional information based upon what the staff is seeing for our CPAs that are applying?
Okay. Any further discussion regarding the motion to indicate affirmative to NASBA and also to add some additional questions for them to consider? Any further question? Any further comments? Do we have any comments from the public in Sacramento? Moderator, could you open the public lines to see if there's any additional comment from the public?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that, type the word comment into the text box and click send. Or our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close this feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
And now, Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote?
Evangeline Ward? Yes. Teresa Thompson?
Yes.
Katrina Salazar?
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Tony Lynn?
Yes.
Christian Lotta?
Yes.
Dan Jacobson?
Yes.
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines?
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan? Yes. And Patricia Batchelor?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item number 12, closing business. Agenda item 12A is agenda items for future. Did I miss? My apologies. My apologies, Ms. Salazar, our acting chair of the Legislative Committee. Would you please report on the activities of our Legislative Committee meeting this morning?
Sure, I'd be delighted to. Thank you. As acting chair, I would like to report that staff presented the legislative tracking chart containing the final actions and outcomes of the bills that the Board of Accountancy had previously taken a position on or monitored during 2023. And staff did note that the following bills, which were all supported by the CBA, were signed by Governor Newsom. And those were Senate Bill 544, which related to teleconference meetings, Senate Bill 816, which incorporated a CBA fee restructuring, and Senate Bill 887, incorporating non-substantial changes to the CBA provisions. And it was also noted that the 3 bills from last year's monitor list, which is our watch list, that carried over to 2024 are 2-year bills that aren't expected to be pursued in their current language. So staff will just continue to monitor these bills and determine if any new bills that may be of interest for the board will be presented at future legislative committee meetings. So this was a report. There was no action taken by the committee. And the second item, which was agenda item 11C3, was the overview of the California legislative process. And this overview helped identify the legislative process within our state, as well as the legislative committee's role as it reviews, recommends, and promotes legislation that is related to consumer protection and the regulation of the practice of accountancy. And that presentation provided information regarding the process and procedures that staff do follow to ensure effective monitoring of legislation, how it communicates with DCA, stakeholders, and the legislatures. So all that information is on our website. It is archived. It's a great resource material throughout the year for reference. There was no action on this item, And that concludes the report of the Legislative Committee.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for almost jumping right over your presentation. At this point, thank you to all of our chairs and acting chairs, Evangeline Ward, Christian Lara, and Katrina Salazar for their reports on the CBA's committees. We had some motions that were voted upon, but I wanted to see if there were any other comments related to any of the other informational reports that were presented by any of these three committees. Any further discussion or comment from the public in Sacramento? Moderator, would you open the public lines to see if there are any comments or questions on any of the reporting from our CBA committees?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on any of the committee reports, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. You may look for the question mark icon, click that to, and then type the word comment into that text box and click send. Or our calling users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the committee reports? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 12A is the agenda items for any future California Board of Accountancy meetings. Are there any agenda items for future consideration from the members? Yes, Ms. Batchelor.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum. I'm the liaison for the QC committee, and when we were in session, it was a person from the public commented on his experience, the problems to get to the attest experience. And what he stated was he was doing his audits under a person that said that they could sign him off, and basically the person's license was inactive and he didn't get his experience. And he was pretty upset about that. And he said some type of control should be put in place or considered. Just like these structured professional pathways for education, it should be something like that as far as experience is concerned for a test licensure. And it resonated with me because it happened to me several years ago. I was with a CPA, he wasn't doing things right. And you as young candidates don't know it's not right. And so you just trust the person to sign you off, and I didn't get my Form E signed off in a certain area. So I was wondering maybe we could talk or think about some type of avenue for these candidates, because that particular area of the public needs to be protected as well. So, and I've heard lots of stories, not just my own, but it's just amazing to me that 2 decades later, I heard the same thing that happened, so.
Okay, thank you. So that's something we can add to our agenda in the future. Thank you. Anything else from any of our members? Any public comment? Are there any members of the public in Sacramento that would like to identify any items for future consideration? Seeing none, would the moderator please open the public lines to see if there are any suggestions from the public?
Certainly. If anyone would like to suggest a future agenda item, you may ask to be recognized by clicking on the hand icon to raise your hand. You may click on the question mark icon, type the word comment in the text box and click send, or calling users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any suggestions of future agenda items? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we are going to move into closed session. So the meeting today is adjourned.